Welcome to another podcast with Fabrizio Ferri-Benedetti and Tom Johnson, your two hosts. My blog is I'dRatherBeWriting.com. Fabrizio's is Paso.uno. And this podcast is one where we explore the intersection of tech comm and AI. And we've been thinking about different names for this, and going to experiment with a name called Phase 1, representing that this is like an early phase of how tech comm and AI intersect. We'll see if that sticks. But anyway, welcome Fabrizio. Thanks for joining. We got lots of great stuff to talk about. Anything you want to say, just to introduce, I don't know, to say hello to people?
Yeah, well, happy belated New Year. It's been a while. But yeah, otherwise, I'm pretty excited about, what 2026 might hold. So yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, so you have a mood of optimism. I like it.
I think it's I wrote that there was this talk of Writer Berlin last year, and it was all about optimism and like the fact that optimism is a duty, some philosophers used to say. And I really believe in that. Like, I think we ought to be optimistic, which doesn't mean we have to be like blind to change or, avoidant of what's obviously negative. But I think we shouldn't we shouldn't give up yet on things. So.
Yeah, well, I think we have a lot to be optimistic about. I mean, we are in a singular point in history where nothing has ever been this way since the dawn of tech writing. It's a transition point, and what a time to be in the field. What a time to be a tech writer when everything is changing. I was driving this morning and thinking about how I haven't changed my role in my org. I haven't changed my professional title since I started like 20 years ago. I've been in the same spot at least 5 years, and everything around me has changed. And now it's like tech writing is moving into automation engineering type stuff. It's like totally different. You're an orchestrator, a context curator. You're doing something totally different. And my org, the tools have changed. My management line has changed, the focus has changed, the products have changed, the partners have changed, like everything, locations where I sit, everything. It just, anyway.
But we're still there, so there might be something to what we do that, doesn't get old.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, we're gonna look at a very hot topic. Okay, now, in the blogosphere, the number one most popular topic every year is predictions. I don't know why, but like people love predictions, and for some reason, it's like the sweet spot for any blog and podcast too. And I was just looking at the metrics for my predictions post, 12 predictions for TechCom in 2026, and it had like 3 times as many clicks as any other post. And I really like yours. You have such a unique take. I don't think I gave it enough credit the first time I was reading your post, My Day as an Augmented Tech Writer in 2030. But I have been unpacking it, and there are so many details that I find fascinating.
Yeah, like what?
Post.
Like what? Tell me about it.
The number one thing that stands out to me is that you seem to okay, so let me just give a little context. So My Day as an Augmented Tech Writer in 2030, Fabrizio took the position of imagining what it would be like to be a tech writer in 2030, and he describes that person's day. So you don't have straightforward like, hey, I predict this will happen and this will happen. It's more like you have to unpack it based on what's going on.
Yeah.
And the thing that jumped out at me most was that you envision a world where things are regulated, kind of highly regulated. And this is in contrast to my post where I thought that this race with China is going to make it so we just tear down any guardrails about regulation. And now you're in Spain and I'm in the West Coast, so we probably have totally different environments. But Can you tell me a little bit about what are your thoughts on regulation? You think AI is actually going to be regulated, or is this just going to be free for all, no holds barred? You got to compete in any way you can.
Yeah, I think, of course, I wrote this as a kind of pun maybe from the European side of things perspective, but I think that wave is coming, at some point, because everything else in tech right now is regulated in one way or another. Like for example, you have SOC 2 in IT that you have to comply with pretty much everywhere. So we're not just talking about GDPR or European laws, but it's also legislation in the United States and other places that you have to follow eventually. But those things usually happen naturally. We are still in phase one. So, and in this phase is like when any new tech is introduced, there's a period of time where legislators are kind of clueless. Things haven't happened yet or are still happening. And decisions haven't been taken yet. And law usually moves a lot slower than tech. But then it catches up. And I think it will catch up eventually. And people, as this becomes more pervasive and more abundant and more accessible, which I hope will be the case, that I really wouldn't like to see a world where AI is like exclusive or something that very few people can use. I would hate that. That's the worst case scenario. But in a scenario where everybody can use AI, definitely, they will start being consumers, and consumers' rights are a thing everywhere, even in China. So, they will start asking for traceability. They will start asking for where is this information coming from, and eventually we will get to a point where there is where the regulation, where something stamped on top of the AI is something that will make people feel better. I'm not talking just about regulation, but also, I think I hinted at that in the post, the pedigree. We will want to know where the models come from and, who are their daddies, father and mother, who created them, what data they used to train the model, because we will have like model connoisseurs, much like it happens with wine, like, oh, this model was trained on the National Library of Congress stuff or whatever, and it's, oh, good quality, good stuff, they allow that. So that's my take. Of course, it's optimistic, but I think regulation will be mostly positive and happening, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would love to see regulation kind of have more teeth and be something that plays out. So that's definitely an optimistic point of view. Certainly, I don't want to live in a world where hackers have destabilized every financial system, because with AI they can crack all the passwords. They can make it so no system is safe. Even your nuclear codes are like being hacked. I just that's not so great, right? Like, we need safeguards.
That would be like the doomsday scenario that you were predicting, maybe in your post, or the P-Doom thing.
Okay, so I think what I was trying to say with the P-Doom is it's going to shift a bit. Yeah. I think I just don't really buy the idea that the AI is going to wake up and one day become sentient and be like, oh, whoa, I'm real, I think instead the P-Doom is going to shift towards, oh my God, people are building bioweapons, or people are building like killer drones. You've got small anarchist armies that are having outsized influence with their killer drones being pointed towards, I don't know, some political entity or some more concrete bad thing happening because of AI, but not due to computer sentience. And I don't know that we've experienced that event yet. Maybe I just am naive, but definitely like, I'm just not a huge believer in the sentience conscious part of AI. I don't know. What do you think about that? You obviously, okay, so you position, this was even a larger takeaway from your post. You position your imagination in 2030, which is 1 year past when Kurzweil and others predict that AGI will be in place. So you don't really see AI becoming, or AGI taking hold in 2029? And
no. Like I think the same as Jan LeCun, for example, at Meta, and other most AI experts, research centers and universities. You ask about this, or neuroscientists, they will tell you it's nigh impossible. Like it's I think some use this metaphor of, you're not gonna get like to the speed of a train just by making bigger horses or something like that. It's there's like a qualitative step that essentially you cannot get that using a large language model. You get a semblance of that, but you cannot get the agency, you cannot get the the general intelligence. And I think most vendors have already given up on promising that. So we would need like something radically different to get there. But I don't even think that's desirable. Like, to be honest, it's nice maybe for a sales pitch, but I don't think we need general artificial intelligence right now. Like we probably need like better human intelligence, but that's maybe a separate topic. But so yeah, no, I don't think. But we won't get there, but it's fine. And even if we got there eventually, maybe 50 years from now, yeah, I don't know. Like, I would probably like just let it run the country or something. But yeah.
Yeah, well, riding on this same theme, one of my predictions is that the hype around AI is going to kind of level off a bit, because I was looking at my own yearly statistics, and like the previous year, I did see a pretty big bump as I started to really use AI. I felt like my stats seemed to double. It's hard to really be exactly scientific because there's so many different factors: site migrations, new APIs, new whole doc sets I'm pushing out, kind of messes up my stats. But I definitely feel like I saw at least my productivity double, if not more, when I embraced AI. But then just this past year, I saw maybe 10% more, maybe the same. So I think that this initial kind of like champagne popping attitude where people are like, oh my God, look how fast this is going. We're going to automate away everything in a few years. All the roles will change. I think that's going to die down, and people are going to be, oh, okay, so I'm faster, but there's a limit, because as much as I generate all this stuff, I still have to review it. I'm not just pushing out, nobody's pushing out docs without reviewing them. Same with code. And that creates a natural speed limit.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, I can tell you that AI has certainly increased my productivity, but it also has like opened up new ways for me of contributing. So it's like it's not just a force multiplier, but it's also a multiplier of things you can do. And at times I felt like this itch, in back of my head, like, well, you have these new capabilities, you have these augmentation, you can do so much more. And there are times where you feel kind of guilty of not doing something, because it's like, I could be doing more. I could be maybe fixing this stuff, or why I haven't thought of using these and these other two together. And which is a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling of I could do more. But this connects back to one thing that we brought up in a previous podcast, which is limits. Like, before we start using these tools for anything, before we start like working in an augmented state, we need to know where we want to get, and then do not get like beyond that point, because otherwise there's no end to work. There's no end to it, and it's not healthy.
Your comment about doing more made me think about some recent experiences I had at work doing more. I was publishing some reference docs, and I noticed there was some weird code appearing in it. And I reached out to the team who owns the sort of Java doc piece of it. And ended up fixing the problem. They had some reverse false true statement or something. It was not that big of a deal, but like AI honed in on it, fixed it, and I committed the fix, right? Which is not something I'd usually do. That's like an engineering ownership. And same thing happened with a different tool where like the output was weird and there was a problem in the engineering code. I had no idea what it was, but some kind of package permissions problem, and fixed it. And I was like, holy crap, it's like I'm much more capable than I thought past.
But then you wonder, so where does this end? Like, how many more problems could I fix? And we as tech writers have lots of visibility of what's broken out there,
Yeah.
But then in my blog post, if you remember, the AI assistant called Chuck in the post.
Yeah.
It has these safeguards, at some point it tells you like, why don't you stop and go for a walk? Or, and it checks the vitals on the smartwatch and, and is able to call like in emergencies if needed. And this is like the kind of feeling I had sometimes with Claude, for example, when I reach the token limit and it says, no, you cannot work till 20. And I'm like, to 8 p.m. And I'm like, okay. So I might go, I can go for a break, but I would like this not to be related to token exhaustion, like something more like a healthy, like the AI assistant telling you to stop a bit, and try to help you keep like a healthy balance. But
I liked that. I mean, at first I was like, what? The computer's never going to tell me what to do. But for sure, if like we can take all of our bio data and just get it integrated with some kind of smart AI assistant that can understand the patterns of all this data, especially as we're interacting with a computer, sure, I would love to know. I think just even in looking at the eye patterns, people can tell if somebody has ADHD or not. It's like, I mean, that's pretty clear. But all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah, but this is still connected to something that I don't know if we'll see improvements this year. I don't feel optimistic. That's something I don't feel particularly optimistic about is UX, the UX of AI. And I think there still are too many modes of interaction with AI. I recently wrote about that in my blog post, my latest blog post. And we really need to come up with like too many tools, too many players. This is, again, a phase one problem. Like, there's an explosion. Eventually, there will be like a reduction of, like the playing field will get smaller, will adjust. But in the meantime, people don't know, am I going to use a skill or am I going to set up an MCP server? Or, and everybody have different experiences. So how you want to use AI, fine. But where do you start? Where do you, I recall that when I first read your API documentation tutorial, I mean, there was OpenAPI. That was pretty much about it, most adopted the API specification standard. There were maybe a few others, but they weren't like, popular or anything. And that was like a path to quick adoption. In our case right now, that's not really clear,
Yeah, you're just to reference the post you're talking about. So this one, your most recent one is called The 4 Modes of AI Augmented Technical Writing. And you're saying that like you've got a lot of different surfaces where AI sort of you interact with it. One is like you're in your editor and it's suggesting things as you type. I think you called that whisper mode or something. Anyway,
the whisper, yeah.
You've also got the chatbot, like a water cooler where you ask questions and get things back. And then another mode was like you're doing some kind of automation at the larger level where like one
the
action
assembler where you have like sub agents doing different things at the same time.
Yeah. And then there was one more I can't remember, but for sure I agree with you that there are so many different touch points. I mean, gosh, at my work there are AI integrations everywhere. Your weekly report about what you've done, you can get that email to you. Every day I arrive and I've got an email from some agent that has looked through my inbox, my chat messages, and tries to tell me what I should be doing. I'm like, I usually just ignore that one. I'm like
I use it, for example, that I discovered the other day, which I hadn't think about is, you have the GitHub command line, the GH command. And if you use Cloud Code with that tool, you can do things like, for example, I have this document I'm going to create, like chunk these work streams in a number of issues and create sub issues in GitHub for me using the API. Bam, and it does that. Like, it's all of a sudden the bureaucracy is done with a command. And I plan on doing things like, for example, similar to what I described in the post, like, okay, check the project board and tell me what's going on. And it uses the GitHub command to access the API, fetch the information, try to detect a pattern, and say, well, these are the priorities, Fabri, like this is on fire or something like that. And I'm really looking forward to things like that. But again, this can only be done when, for example, from an IDE, I would probably do it. Is more efficient when done from the CLI. But then how do people know this? It's like it's trial and error, or coming up with the secret combos, recipes. It's not obvious. Most of this stuff is not obvious right now.
I'm seeing AI just baked into every sort of interface, just as like an option. And this might be a Google specific thing. But for example, in our bug tool, there's a button. In the browser, there's a button. In our code repo, there's a button. In our IDE, there's a button. In the CLI, there's an option. It's pretty much just there, and it's all kind of, a lot of it's using a similar model. But for example, when I create a change list, there's a button to review it with AI, and I love that thing. I think it just kicks off a prompt that says check for unexpected changes, but about a quarter of the time it finds stuff that I missed. And so, yeah, I think that there's definitely like a fatigue and a confusion and an sense of overwhelm with so many different tools. In our internal author AI sort of education group, definitely experienced a lot of fatigue where people are like, oh my God, yet another tool. I think I mentioned this previously, but the CLI tool had come out, Gemini CLI, and one writer was really praising it. It was like, it was amazing.
Yeah.
And then she went on vacation, and the next month it was like, oh, anti-gravity's out. It's like, oh, this blows away the previous one. So, yeah.
I mean, there's a third option coming, which is kind of scary if you think about it, which is AI taking over your entire workspace. So I'm talking of things like, I don't know if you've seen Cloud Code Co-work, or for example, Manus AI is a tool that I've used recently for, like some presentations and stuff like that, personal level, not work. And Manus, specifically Manus, spin up this small Linux computer, and it does all the work on that small computer. It spins off like a virtual machine. So it has like full control of a whole computer to do stuff. And Cloud Code Co-work is essentially the same thing, but on your computer, which is an extension of, for example, the browser extension they launched, where it allows Cloud to use your browser and control your browser. But so, well, if you let that door open, well, I don't know how much content would that consume, probably a lot, but essentially it's like, well, I don't need the button in the different tools, because now the AI has control of the whole thing. But yeah, it's I don't know if I'd allow that, to be honest.
Wow, I have not experimented with that, and I've heard about it. So wow, that's pretty interesting. Yeah. You sort of mentioned something in your post. I'm trying to remember exactly.
Yeah.
Kind of like a reverse centaur, where like the AI is doing 80%.
Cory Doctorow's, the writer, wrote a fantastic article about that. And it's like it's a reverse centaur, because the centaur is the best scenario. It's like it's a human upper torso with a body of a horse. So you go fast, but you retain your human intelligence and control. The reverse centaur is like, well, essentially you are you have the worst of both worlds. So you are like an approver, like just a machine, like a human appendage of AI. AI is doing the stuff, and the human is just clicking a button, say, yeah, go ahead. and is really demeaning of what is human, and so that's, of course, is the apocalyptic scenario. And I think Cory Doctorow is a science fiction writer, and he does that very well. Has been, I love him, but he's like kind of what he does, right? Is painting these scenarios for us.
Yeah.
My take is still optimistic in that we can avoid that mostly, for the most part, or at least sometimes we'll be Reverse Centaur and it's fine. Some other times we'll take more control. It's something like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of fear that people have that they're going to lose their writing skills because they are adopting this inverted centaur. They're no longer really calling the shots. They're, as you say, kind of approving things, looking it over. It seems right, kind of like, I don't. And so people are worried that what exactly is going to be our value? Our role is diminishing. Our, like, the human aspect of it is diminishing. Now, in your predictions post, you had the writer have some kind of certification on content, that it was like human certification about how much AI was used. So you still see like the human in control. You don't see the human being marginalized in a really extreme way.
I mean, of course there will be cases where this will happen, because it's like misuse of technology will always happen. But in general, I think there are already like attempts out there, which are very clever, by the way, of certifying that something was written by a human. For example, I don't remember the name right now, but there's this encrypted certificate that is generated to, for example, a blog post. How does it work? Well, essentially, you have like a program running in the background of your computer, registering your keystrokes, on the keyboard of your computer, and hashing that. And then you present a text, and it says, well, you haven't typed any of this. So you cannot really, certify you typed that. But it's all encrypted, so there's no data leaking, anything. But it's just checking the two activity hashes together so that you can certify whether that came out. And, well, it really depends on what we value, right? Like maybe 50 years ago, nobody valued like green food, bio, whatever, sustainability. Now we do. And I think, the same will happen with human-generated content. But in tech writing, I don't know. Like, I'm expecting that people will value having like a human talking to them and explaining things to them.
I don't know exactly if I see a demand for that. I use AI to write plenty of stuff. I will usually put a little tagline in my change list saying, hey, this is AI generated, so review it carefully, because if there are errors, I'm hoping you catch them. I don't quite say that last part, but
yeah.
I don't get people pushing back and being like, oh my God, not another AI generated, AI written stuff. However, in the expressive writing space on a blog, it's a lot different. There's definitely a pushback against AI slop. It's a totally different genre. So like AI is killing it in the enterprise, where prose is voiceless. There's no byline. There's no like, hey, what's your argument here? Or what's your, add a little bit more of your personal experience and perspective. No, and nobody's ever asked me that. They're just like, hey, is this accurate? And I don't even think people are going to be reading enterprise written tech docs anymore. They just want the file, and they want to query it in their own AI tool. They want to, this is what people really want. People cannot figure this out in the enterprise. They want to make it so that somebody who goes to ChatGPT, Claude Code, Gemini, something else, they get all the comprehensive, accurate documentation information. We might be able to influence Gemini, but how could we possibly influence ChatGPT? How do you do that? So if you somehow make your content completely portable with an MCP server, it sort of addresses that. And I think that's what most people are going to want. Nobody wants to read docs.
Probably. Yes. But, I remember when you wrote that blog post about, the feeling of loneliness at work, and, not being, and there's a previous post to the one I wrote, which is technical, predictions for 2049. And my prediction there was a bit wilder in that I think technical writers will be like therapists of AI, or like the the non-player characters in massive more role-playing games, like the shopkeeper, and because I expect people at some point will want that truly human contact, of someone that explains tech to them. And it's already happening, like in the DevRel space. You see the videos of tech influencer explaining tech in a very human way, in a very relatable way, as if they were like at a campfire or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is scalable, of course, but I mean, in the end, why some companies are successful in selling stuff is because they have fantastic, sales representative, account executives, like humans that go there and be human with other folks and explain stuff like directly, and they use our docs, for that. But so the human ingredients somehow will surface, but my only concern is how many of us will be needed for this, and I don't know if a lot of us will be needed for this, to be honest. I don't know.
Sorry, I have to smile about that post I wrote on loneliness and how that's going to increase because, gosh, I just heard back from one of my academic friends, Professor Jeremy Roslett Marriott, who teaches at James Madison. He said that he put that post along with this predictions post and something else, his guest post he wrote, into his TechCom curriculum for the year. And I got so much responses from that loneliness post. And I don't know why. Maybe it's because people really maybe it really connected with something. Like there's a lot of lonely tech writers out there, and they're like, oh my God, even this guy who's got every connection and seems to be surrounded by so many people is also feeling isolated and lonely. That's crazy. But yeah, I do think in my own blogging, I'm trying to emphasize the human elements. What is my experience? What is my opinion about this? Bringing that in. And you definitely don't want to let AI take over those elements, whereas maybe having AI do some summary, some fact checking. Am I interpreting this article right? And did I get this book correct in terms of how I'm like depicting the author's argument? That kind of stuff is really good with AI. But AI, it's not only got problems with like first person kind of elements, but the language too is too tame. It's too middle of the curve. You need the edges, the alien stuff. This is a post I'm working on. I've got a big theory about Bakhtin and heteroglossia that I'm dying to share. Probably will only resonate with a few nerds out there, but definitely language is a problem too. But anyway, but this podcast is mostly about enterprise tech doc writing. And will we need the human? I don't know. That's remains to be seen. However, let me shift to a slightly different sort of idea. So if our writing skills are not necessarily going to be championed and sought after, what are the new skills that people should really pursue? That's a question a lot of the academics are asking. How do we train our students? What are the skills that are in demand in the workplace? And I predict that automation engineering will be a new skill. Learning how to write a script or a prompt that results in the system like achieving what you want.
Yeah.
What do you think about automation engineering?
I think automation engineering is like an expression, one of the many expressions of system thinking, which I believe we brought up in previous podcasts as well. And I think system thinking is one of the top skills I would probably seek in anybody in the future working with AI, because it's really about orchestrating and seeing the big picture and relating system between each other, which is something that I don't expect AI ever to be able to do. And automation, well, you can also, there's always this thing about the automatons building themselves, and I think AI can help you build part of that automation system. But in the end, how you connect the pieces together is entirely up to you, because that's ultimately the system you build is an expression is of, and I'm getting philosophical here, of volition, of something you want to do. And wanting to do something is purely organic, human, like you want to achieve something that you care about. So yes, I think definitely automation as part of that system thinking, definitely. The other, I think, is communication, in all forms. So, and I think I was having this conversation with a developer the other day. He on Blue Sky, he writes Python tutorials, and we were agreeing that anybody who has both the technical knowledge and the communication skills is like in the best position going forward in the tech world, because you will need both. You will need like an understanding of what the tech does, but at the same time like a certain command of words. And I would argue that's 60 or 70% going forward.
I really like your connection of automation engineering with systems thinking. I hadn't actually thought about those two, but you're absolutely right. Like you have to understand this larger system. That was a topic. Systems thinking was something I was really kind of interested in a couple of years ago, and then it fizzled out because for various reasons. But yeah, I like that. I was giving or more like leading a discussion about automation engineering internally at my work the other day. And I realized something. Not a lot of people are doing this. I was trying to find people in our community who had like automated entire processes and been like, yeah, I scripted this really complex thing, and now it's like Gemini does it. And there were a couple of people who had done some cool things, but no large scale trends. And I think I'm pushing the boundaries in trying to automate my release notes process, which has a lot of different pieces to it. But my larger takeaway here is that all these fears about a tech writer role being automated away are kind of ridiculous if we can't even automate a single process that role performs. If it's so hard to just automate release notes, how are you ever going to automate the entire role of the person? It might be the case that we can only automate tasks and subtasks within processes, and we really need a lot of the cyborg type collaborative, iterative back and forth between human and machine. Maybe that's the really only viable model, in which case our jobs should be safe. Anyway.
Perhaps. I mean, the thing is, if you try, from what I know, is that if you try to create like an fully automated system with LLM in between, you will notice two things. One is that unless you have an unlimited amount of tokens or AI credits or AI usage, it's pretty difficult, because you're putting something that is not controlled in a place where it's going to consume context unsupervised. And we don't simply have that much fuel in the machine for that right now. Like most AI agents have limited context, limited capabilities, and no matter how many you spin, you will end up like hitting a wall. So, and deterministic automation can run at a very large scale. I'm not sure we can scale up, but that's like a temporary limitation probably. If hardware gets better, software gets better. So that's one thing. And the other thing is that you really need to think about the limit where you're gonna. But that's also like a problem of general automation, and that's the reason why I think is failing, is because our domain is so undeterministic in a way. There are very few places in our documentation where we can for sure say, yeah, this is gonna be always automated. Maybe code snippets is the only one that comes to my mind.
I'm separating when I try to automate something, I'm separating the tasks into two different buckets. One is the
Hmm.
deterministic part. For
Yeah.
example, with release notes, I want to create file diffs of every changed API reference file in the release, but that's something I can script in a deterministic way. But then if I want to take and get a summary of the file diff and connect it to a roadmap item, that I can't write a script for that, but I can write a prompt for it. So then that gets filed under the probabilistic sort of task. And this kind of pairing of, okay, we're going to run the deterministic tasks, get as far as we can, and then we switch over into probabilistic mode and do the rest. But even in probabilistic mode, I might have to run the same task like 5 different times until I feel confident that the response is actually right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If it's a
But
complex thing.
that's that's how agents operate right now, and I think that's is the key to future AI based automation is make the AI part as small as possible and try to cover the rest of the area with deterministic stuff,
Yeah.
so that, for example, if I want to check, and I'm currently using this, Chris Ward and I built this MCP server to check documentation style using Veil, and Veil is a fully deterministic tool. It
Yeah.
uses rules, right? The thing is, essentially, you're telling the agent to use this tool to check for the styles as many times as possible, but it's not doing itself manually. So is the surest way
Yeah.
to combine the two.
I remember your post on that, and that strategy is key. And for sure, like I'm using AI to write the deterministic scripts, so
Right.
it's
Yeah,
factoring
yeah,
in
yeah,
there. But yeah, once the script is written, it's hopefully not
yeah.
relying on any kind of AI.
Exactly.
Well, all right. Hey, let's jump into another part of the predictions that is still kind of I haven't quite figured out how I feel about it
Hmm.
because I love coffee. And you said that your future writer is drinking surrogate coffee because nobody can afford coffee anymore. And in my predictions, I took an optimistic view and said the economy won't crash because AI is going to
Right.
suddenly take hold in all kinds of non-tech domains, from the library to your police force to all the stuff that wasn't like AI saturated. It's going to find a home, and that's going to buoy up enough of the like revenues. But your world, you can't even drink coffee. So what's up with that?
Well, that's just was just the dystopian touch that you had to have. Like, we cannot have everything, you're right. And back when I don't know what the situation is now. When I wrote that, coffee prices were surging. I don't know if they're still quite high, but I mean, those things will happen. And I think I wanted to add that touch in a way, as a way of saying that you know bad things will still happen. The road will always be bumpy, but in general, there will be moments of kindness and there will be moments of quiet. Um, and that's my way of looking at it. Like, the road is gonna be bumpy, but there will always be like a stop, and we can relax. That's yeah.
Well, about the bumpy road, I think a lot of people in the industry are wondering if they should get into something else because they're
Ah,
not seeing a lot of hiring. They're not seeing a lot of hiring. However,
yeah.
if you look at like hiring trends, there is a group that is being hired, and it's people with AI skills. Um, I mean, it's a lot easier to say than to develop, right? But do you think that, like, if you're a tech writer who's out of work, or you're a student looking to break into the field, if you specialize in AI, you're going to find a home somewhere? What do you think?
Um, I think if you present your work as something that benefits from AI augmentation, and you can, explain your workflows and show the results of it, uh, definitely, definitely. But things like, I think the approach is really showing what you can build using AI, and showing also, like, how much AI is broadens your reach and the kind of things you can do, like scripting, or like creating systems using agents, like Sarah Deaton recently wrote about in her blog. I will send you that URL later for links. So but not like not the classic approach of I have an AI certification or I did like AI courses. I mean, that might work sometimes, but everything these days is about doing and showing and telling people what you've done. And it's always been a bit like this in tech, but I think it's even more like that now because it's not a field that has solidified enough so that you can like get a degree on or something like that,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, this year I really want to emphasize more of like the automation engineering part of my role, and develop that. So that's kind of my way of trying to push into that skill set. And if I can say, hey, check out this script I wrote, and here's what it did for me. It wrote all the release notes. Got like 90% there every time. Saved me oodles of time. Maybe that will be a good skill. Hey, let's look at one more prediction. You had a pretty controversial one in there where you said that Claude or Anthropic had gone bankrupt or had been purchased and acquired by Apple. And so Apple finally got some good AI in there. But
Yeah.
it provokes this larger question of like, in order for an AI company to survive, do they really have to adopt one of these like approaches where you've got a whole ecosystem of products? I mean, think about Amazon, Apple,
Yeah.
Google, like they're not single product companies. I don't know if you had any larger thoughts about like what an AI company will need to do in the future to survive.
It really depends on their aspirations. Like if you aspire at like, if you are, and I think we'll see that. Like we'll see players maybe shrinking to just target the developer space. And that would be fine because it's already where they have the biggest traction. Like Claude is an example of that. Like they have one of the best coding models, but if you really aspire at selling something to everybody, of course you need like a bigger surface, and that is the biggest player have that. Maybe I don't know. Like maybe by some feat of fiscal engineering, some miracle there, government intervention. Maybe we will see those companies still being, still propelled into growth this year, but it doesn't look super rosy. I don't share the pessimism of some, pundits that, say that everything is going to crash and it's going to drag us to the bottom of the sea. But yeah, I think at some point the flow of money, the flow of cash will diminish, and they will have to either specialize or
Mm-hmm.
pivot into something else. But yeah. So back to your question, yes, if you have an ecosystem, of course you have an advantage. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And gosh, a lot of people just keep waiting for Apple to make like a winning move, and we'll see if that happens. It seems like they had so much cash to burn, and I was excited for them to come out with a car, and then they scrapped that whole Project Titan effort, and it bugged me. So hopefully they'll make a
I
good
think
move.
if they're still true to their roots and spirit, I think Apple's struggle echoes our own struggle as technical writers, because one of the things I would like to think more about going forward, starting this year, is how to reconcile the human side of our work with AI. And I think Apple has always had this human touch in their design system. And
Yeah.
I think they're still trying to figure out how to really make it like a very human experience, like even an emotional experience. If they succeed, we will probably. You remember the movie Her from 2013?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
with Joaquin Phoenix. I mean, that's like how I picture like Apple AI going forward. But I don't know. Like that's a dream.
Huh.
That's a dream.
Interesting. I hadn't thought of like Apple being the sort of a metaphor for our own state and so on. The ability to combine human excellence with the AI
Yeah.
integration. And so, yeah, for sure, they're gonna find their transhumanist movement.
Hopefully,
I mean,
they've always been about the intersection of humanities and tech. Well, we'll see if that holds.
yeah. Um, hey, let's see. Any other predictions you want to mention? We've talked a lot. We've talked about hiring and jobs. We've talked about major AI companies and even the economy and so on, automation, our role. There's some other things, but anything else in terms of predictions that you want to touch upon?
Um, well, you had one about AI, like going like very strong into the defense market, but that's kind of like the stuff of nightmares. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I do think that the military is going to embrace AI even more so than they already are, and that's going to fuel a lot of the like demand for AI because
yeah,
governments can't just shut it down. They're like, I just read something the other day or today about China using coyotes to help train AI. I don't know. I saw a
oh
headline and I
gosh,
thought, what? But like, yeah, there's a lot of maybe opportunity for missiles and other military things to get smarter. You've
yeah,
seen
yeah,
Palantir. Man, that was the
yeah,
company to invest in. Not so much NVIDIA, but Palantir that does all the AI behind
yeah.
military
Well,
stuff.
let
But
me switch to something more, something rosier.
okay.
My prediction, Tom, I don't know if this year, but my prediction is that there will be a moment where we tech writers working software, something will click in our heads and we will realize that we can build software, as like software engineers do, just with a different approach thanks to AI. And I think with that moment, when that click will happen, we will be communicators and builders. That's a thing I'm thinking about also.
I'm definitely getting echoes that I can move beyond my current role. I mentioned making fixes to some doc publishing pipelines and so on. And I did vibe code a whole tool that generates PDFs from docs based on our own internal service, which was
Right.
insanely complicated. But you're pretty optimistic about breaking forward, breaking through an even larger role shift, so that we're not just thinking I'm a tech writer. This is what I do. Could do a lot more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I
Well.
think we need to think like a little bigger rather than
Yeah.
implode into our own role. Like we have to sort
Well.
of break free.
Every time I think, God, I want to spread my wings and I want to like play some PM type role and make a really insightful comment about what our roadmap should be. I always think, well, I first have this huge doc request. Somebody asked me to migrate a whole bunch of stuff, or somebody asked me to fix a bunch of stuff for legal, or somebody asked me to generate docs for a whole new API. So I'm always like under the gun. I don't have like free time to just sit there and be like, let me see if I can do software development. Like, do, I think the acceleration, this is my previous theme, acceleration is just going to be amplified, and we're going to have less and less free time to explore these other roles. We're going to have to like carve out that moment and just push back and say, look, I'm not doing this today. I'm going to do something that isn't due because it's important. Anyway.
Yeah, yeah. But we are not alone in that. I think software engineers are also going through the same things right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Software engineers can really feel it because they see all this stuff that's happening. Yeah, I was at this book club, Seattle Intellectual Book Club. My wife always teases me about this name. And we were sitting down and we had just read If Anyone Builds It, Everyone Dies book. And there was like 2, maybe even 3 software engineers at this table. And somebody else just decides to come over and join our table. And he sits down and he says, I was just at a conference on the East Coast and they were hyping up AI, and I said, how are any of you using AI? And not a single person could tell me. And all the software engineers were just like, you got to be kidding me. Like, they didn't even have the
Yeah,
energy to engage with this guy because their
yeah.
entire roles are being transformed and they're using AI a ton. And it's just like, are you kidding me? Anyway,
This is
sorry.
the is phase one is the gold rush. So we have to cope with it.
Hey, let's talk briefly about something else you wrote. You were trying to make an impassioned plea in a larger
Yeah,
sense. You said, to those who fired or didn't hire tech writers because of AI, and this is at paso.uno/reconsider.
yeah,
And you said this actually got some attention on Hacker News among software engineers. So
yeah.
just curious, well, tell me about this post. Why did you write it, and what was a reaction on Hacker News?
Yeah, so I was It's been like a end of the year with hiring freezes. I'm still going to Reddit to and read the thoughts of technical writers, some of which are a bit depressing because there's many sad situations out there. Like even today, there's a post of someone who was like fired because of AI, and I was like, well, let's go on the offensive. Let's write something to that people. Let's address those folks who are taking those decisions. And with I didn't have anyone in particular in my mind, just anyone who might at some point consider doing something like that. And so that's writing passionate stuff is something that I like doing, and AI isn't very good at doing. So I said, why not? And ironically, I was using Manus AI to like try some layouts, and when I showed the post without saying anything, Manus created this single page application that then I used to slash reconsider. And I thought, well, this is brilliant. I mean, it's not my usual blog layout. I can always post it in the blog, but let's use this layout that is feels like more like a manifesto kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it kind of worked. And in Hacker News, well, the reactions, I think most of them were like pathetic with the message and like a bit on the sad side, and perhaps also feeling that this is coming to software engineering as well. And then of course you always have like the 2 or 3 trolls, but that's what that's to be expected on Hacker News anyway. But apparently these also get like some resonances, even like in there's a newsletter for recruiters apparently, and the post got mentioned there, so it kind of got the attention of the people I wanted to read it. We'll see. I mean, it's just a drop in the ocean, but I really wanted to crystallize like the kind of mood we need to have, like to fight back against the thinking that we can be replaced easily. And I think we have lots of arguments.
First of all, I when I read that post, I thought, oh, Fabri has like redesigned his blog and he's got way more stylish. And then I went to Paso Uno. I was like, oh, this is like a one-off styling. Yeah, because it is extremely well done, and that adds to the ethos of the post for sure.
But isn't it ironic that AI helped me design that? It helped me go the message through that, of course you don't want to use me. Like, let me help you with that.
Well, this topic reminds me of something my previous manager told me. We were talking about, like, what can you do to try to dissuade senior execs from getting this idea that tech writers could just be replaceable by AI. And he said that I could have influence on my blog on shaping the larger kind of conversation across the internet for where people even get this idea. So I've noticed this when I do Gemini Deep Research, where it goes and looks across the web for topics.
Yeah.
I frequently see my blog in the list of sources consulted,
yeah,
which gives me hope that maybe I can influence the search engines, the AI tools that gather and come up with things, so that when you have an exec who's typing, should I get rid of my tech writers? Your post, my posts, other posts are going to be like factored into AI's response that says, no, that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
This is why at some point I pushed back on the hype of AI, because I didn't want to give this wrong impression to upper leaders that everything I was doing could be replaced by AI. There was this little tagline that we were putting on our change list. It's like, AI used? Yes. They're like, no, I'm not putting that tagline anymore on my change list. I don't want to give the wrong idea, because that's really like our biggest danger, is like some senior leader gets a whiff, who doesn't understand tech writing, gets a whiff of this idea that, oh, tech writing, that's now automated. You've got a code wiki. You don't need documentation anymore.
Docs theater.
Yeah. That's our biggest risk, because, gosh, when you, as I mentioned earlier, when you start to really try to automate an actual process that a tech writer does, it's extremely difficult, and you find that almost nobody's doing it, and you can only get like part of it. So anyway, thanks for writing that.
I'm seeing more and more technical writers blogging these days, and it's really encouraging. And I think this is way better than SEO. I mean, we are planting the seeds in the future LLM versions of what they should be doing and telling stakeholders about. So get your words out there, get your voice out there, because that's the context that is gonna upon which they're gonna train the models in the future.
And hey, here's another great reason to start blogging. If you're having AI do more writing at work, and you feel like my writing skills are becoming rusty, and you want to like let your humanity sort of free, you should blog. I'll post a link to the CT's blog ring that has a good list of other blogs. And you can get some ideas. Super easy to get a blog out. And I think tech writers might realize that blogging is actually a lot harder than it looks. You can't just like throw a post out in 10 minutes and have everybody in the world read it. Like, it takes a lot of time, but it's also really rewarding. And I get to connect with people like you. I mean, through your blog, I know that you exist, and you know that I exist.
I think it's really helping us stay sane,
For sure. All right. Well, hey, we're at the hour. Any last topics we want to cover, or did we do a good job in covering predictions?
Yeah. I would say I'm really looking forward to have like more hosts in the future. I think it's going great so far. Especially if they have to tell like the way they're using AI at work, that would be like very inspiring. So, if you are listening to this and would like to participate, just ping us.
For sure. We have some hosts lined up in our next ones. We've been alternating between hosts or having a guest and not a guest and seeing how that works. So give us feedback. What do you like? What do you want to hear about? Do you want to participate? We'd love to hear from you. So thanks again for listening. And again, if you want to read more of Fabri's blog, passo.uno, my blog is I'dRatherBeWriting.com. And we'll publish all the links to resources mentioned in the show notes. So thanks.
Thank you.